everyone, and welcome to the Pokemon Amino VGC Invitational match. This is the second match of the tournament. My name is Raden, LMGRaden, and I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Remington, Remington.
How you doing, everybody?
So we've got a really great matchup right now. We have Dunga versus Mewtwo fan Nate, and both of these players are really interesting as neither are terribly, big with VGC. Dunga has, of course, made a huge transition towards doubles OU, and while he did do fairly well at San Jose Regionals, Mewtwo fan Nate, yeah, he's mostly just been playing VGC online. Nothing wrong with that, but this is certainly going to be an interesting performance for both, since neither are as hardcore VGC players as our previous match, which had two reasonably decorated players. I think we're going to get right into team preview here, or team analysis real quick. You're going to see Dunga's team first. That is the Tapu Lele, the Pheromosa, the Metagross, the Snorlax, the Arcanine, and the Drifblim. Of course, some of his accomplishments. He, of course, went 5-3 at San Jose Regionals, and to add to that, he also has beaten Marcus Statter at some format, and he was top 8 in the doubles OU Winter Seasonal. So definitely got a number of accomplishments under his belt. Of course, Nate has a slightly more interesting team, and not nearly the accomplishments that we've seen. He's a small-time YouTuber with over 500 subs and has a strong will to learn VGC, and that is what we need to see. His team will be that Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Drifblim, Metagross, Politoed, and Hariyama.
Yeah, so as you can see, the teams are actually pretty similar until you get down to Nate's Politoed and Hariyama. I've actually personally never seen a Politoed in this VGC, even watching a lot of the regionals, and I've rarely seen a Hariyama, so definitely an unorthodox way to round out Nate's team.
Yeah, of course, Politoed we've seen in plenty of previous formats, in particular 2012 and 2014 and 2015. Of course, Politoed in 2012 and 2013, 2015 filled out a support role, but without move tutor moves, it can't really do that this year. So it's kind of left to be some sort of awkward choice scarf user, most likely. And that certainly is going to be interesting. This year we've actually been seeing a lot more Pelipper as the premier rain setter, since it has that access to Tailwind. But Politoed certainly has the necessary bulk, and could make this match very interesting if Nate can get it in the right position.
Yeah, same thing with that Hariyama. You don't see it too often, but if he is running what most people do run in the Guts Hariyama, then if he gets it in the right board position, he could do lots of damage to the opposing side.
Yeah. And of course, Dunga has that interesting... Both players have the interesting Tapu Lele Drifblim mode that has been picking up steam lately, where you bring out the Tapu Lele first and try and get that Psychic Seed off onto the Drifblim to give it the unburdened Tailwind boost. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out for both trainers, if one goes for it a turn before the other, or something like that, because that kind of momentum, I don't see much. There aren't a lot of other ways that they can control speed on each other's teams, so that'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, also on Dunga's team, he does have a Snorlax, and we have seen that if Snorlax gets set up with those curses, it can remain on the field for a long time. So, I don't know if Nate brought that Hariyama as a kind of counter to Snorlax, but it certainly does counter that Snorlax fairly well, as long as there's not a ridiculous amount of curse boost up.
And we've seen consistently this season that Hariyama, with that guts, is easily able to pick up a one-hit knockout onto Snorlax. It's just something that you don't see all too often, allowing it to not trigger the 50% berry and basically stay on the field and be a nuisance.
Yeah. Especially if that Snorlax is running Recycle, it can really just kind of sit there and just recover and curse up and recover and curse up.
Yeah, of course, both players have Metagross, and that'll certainly make the matchup interesting as it does really well against a few of each of their teams. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets down to a Metagross versus Metagross, how that plays out.
Yeah, and will they run a more offensive Metagross, or will they run a more bulky Metagross?
Yeah. Well, I think we're almost ready to start, so give us a moment while we make sure that the players are ready.
So here we are in team preview of Dunga versus Mewtwo fan Nate. Of course, Dunga on the top of your screen, Tapu Lele, Pheromosa, Metagross, Arcanine, Drifblim, and Snorlax against Nate on the bottom of your screen, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Drifblim, Metagross, Politoed, and Hariyama.
Alright, so we see a pretty similar kind of core of, they both have that Tapu Lele, Drifblim, and they also have that Metagross in order to exert offensive pressure. Where it starts differing is that Arcanine, that Snorlax, and that Pheromosa on Dunga's side, while on Nate's side, he actually has a Tapu Koko, a Politoed, and a Hariyama.
Of course, that Tapu Koko and the Politoed on Nate's side could prove to be very interesting, as there aren't a lot of Pokemon Dunga has that can switch into them. Nate realizes this and leads Metagross Politoed in the against Drifblim Lele in the Psychic Terrain. That's a pretty solid lead.
Yeah, there's nothing much you can want. If you're on Dunga's side right there, that special defense boost is always nice, and it doesn't seem like there's any Trick Room pressure on Nate's side of the field, so Drifblim could set up that Tailwind if it really wants to.
However, you do have to watch out in case that Politoed has some odd support moves such as Encore or Swagger. Tapu Lele gonna go ahead and protect his Drifblim, gets the Will-O-Wisp Bomb onto Metagross, but it eats the Lung Berry. Hydro Pump goes into the Drifblim, deals around a third, and Zen Headbutt KOs the Drifblim, so Drifblim is down turn 1.
Wow. Unfortunately for Dunga, that Will-O-Wisp did nothing, but it's a good thing that he found that out for the next game, because now he knows Nate's Metagross does have a berry that will heal any status conditions that are inflicted on it.
Yeah, and Nate just taking that for free. He takes no damage in return as the Pheromosa comes out now. Pheromosa, of course, one of the most powerful Pokemon, but goes down very easily thanks to that low bulk. Of course, Psychic Terrain means that Metagross, if it carries that Bullet Punch, can't use it and KO Pheromosa.
Yeah, but that Zen Headbutt is boosted in that Psychic Terrain.
Yeah, and if he doubles up into that Tapu Lele, it's not going to be a fun day for it. Of course, this is where the mind games come in, and especially for that Pheromosa, which normally carries high jump kick. If it goes into a Protect or a Drift, or that Drifblim or a Miss, it's taking 50% and breaking any potential Focus Sash.
Yeah, I think it honestly, in this chance, comes down to how that Pheromosa is able to deal with that Metagross this turn.
Yeah, I think if Dunga can get rid of the Metagross, then he's in a very good position, because that means that his Metagross has an if he decided to bring that, has a chance to sweep. High jump kick nearly KOs the Politoed. Politoed fires back into the Tapu Lele, which fires with a Shattered Psyche to finish off the Politoed. Zen Headbutt finishes off the Tapu Lele.
Oh man, I don't know about the use of Shattered Psyche there. Maybe thinking that high jump kick would have enough to knock it out, and it would just go into that
or anticipating Protect. And we see that Metagross is the final Pokemon for Dunga. Gonna face off against Nate's Tapu Koko, overriding the Psychic terrain.
Yeah, that high jump kick does offer a good amount of damage to that Metagross. However, it doesn't really do that much to Tapu Koko with that Fairy typing. But that Metagross can take care of that Tapu Koko if it really wants to, with perhaps a Meteor Mash if it's carrying it.
Yeah. Of course, now Pheromosa really gonna want to figure out which of these two Pokemon it wants to target. Of course, that Tapu Koko now poses a huge threat to the Metagross as electric terrain boosted Thunderbolt deals so much damage. Pheromosa gonna go ahead and protect this turn as Thunder comes out, deals around a fourth to Metagross, as Earthquake comes out, deals around a third to Metagross and about 2/3 to Tapu Koko.
That was a great protect for Dunga right there. It basically it showed Metagross's special defense bulk right there in taking less than half on that Thunder, which is an excellent thing for him to know. Which means he has at least one more turn, or at least 2 more turns of Thunder, or Metagross is going to have to double target into that other Metagross on Dunga's side.
Yeah, and something interesting to note is, okay, Bullet Punch comes out, deals around 2/3 to Pheromosa, which poison jabs and KOs the Tapu Koko, getting the attack boost. Dunga's Metagross gets the attack boost off of the Meteor Mash. And something interesting to note from the turn previously is that Dunga's Metagross seems to be the faster variant.
Yeah, also that terrain switch, so Bullet Punch is now being able to hit, which is huge for
Fake Out goes into the Metagross, but High Jump Kick picks up the KO, and Pheromosa now sitting at +2, Metagross at +1. Hariyama does get the Guts boost, but I think this is going to be game for Dunga's favor.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Nate, he might have just revealed that his Hariyama is in fact of the Guts variety, with that Flame Orb activating, and yeah, unfortunately with those attack boosts, there's really nothing that this Hariyama can do.
Jab and Zen Headbutt do double up and pick up the KO onto the Hariyama, and Dunga takes game 1.
Yeah, the play that swayed the game right there was really that Protect on Pheromosa, enabling that Metagross to get an Earthquake up and do some nice damage to both of Nate's Pokemon in that turn.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, that Metagross getting the attack boost just made it so much more threatening. Just coming out and completely able to easily annihilate that Hariyama. Of course, if Hariyama had Feint, it could have turned that into a bit of a different game, but since he didn't go for the Feint onto the Pheromosa, that likely indicates he's not carrying Feint on Hariyama, likely opting for some other move.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, especially if it is that Guts Hariyama, then that Feint would do a good amount, especially to Pheromosa. As Raden says, it is just lacking in its natural bulk, and basically most super effective moves will take it out, and perhaps even normal effective.
Oh yeah, easily normal effective. Moves that are neutral effective, just a good strong stab move really can easily deal huge chunks. We saw that the Bullet Punch did so much to it, and that's even a resisted hit.
Yeah, that I'm curious why Metagross actually didn't go for that. The Metagross on Nate's side didn't go for the Bullet Punch again in the turn after.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of stuff that each player can learn. Of course, Dunga was easily able to adapt from that early deficit. Of course, Pheromosa really showing how it's just a great Pokemon for helping bring back games, and Tapu Koko didn't really get a chance to do what it wanted because that Metagross was so bulky.
Yeah, revealing that that Metagross has a lot of special defense bulk was actually very good for Nate to find out, because now he knows he can't really just rely on that Tapu Koko's massive special attack stat to take out Metagross, whose special defense is less bulky than its actual defense stat.
Yeah, of course, that could indicate that the Metagross might be running the Assault Vest item, which is something that Nate has to consider moving on. We're going to go ahead and get into Game 2 now. Dunga on the top of your screen, once again running that Tapu Lele, Pheromosa, Metagross, Arcanine, Snorlax, and Drifblim against Nate's Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Politoed, Hariyama, Drifblim, and Metagross.
As you see both players taking their time, it'll be interesting to see if they keep the same leads.
Dunga obviously switching it up, going for the Metagross Drifblim, as Nate this time goes for the Tapu Lele Drifblim. Both Drifblims getting their Psychic Seed boost, so it'll be interesting to see which Drifblim is the faster one.
Yeah, or if we have a speed tie and we just have to kind of alternate between speed calculations.
Of course, it does look like Nate's is a little faster since its Psychic Seed activated first, but as you said, it could be a speed tie.
Yeah, and that Metagross does offer a lot of offensive pressure onto that Tapu Lele, which is good for Dunga's side at the moment.
Yeah, of course. Now the real mind game's coming here. Do each of them use Tailwind? If not, which one does? Because I think whatever uses the Tailwind puts the better in the other position. Dunga's does go for the Tailwind as it takes a Shadow Ball and a Thunderbolt, but it gets paralyzed, and Meteor Mash picks up a one-hit knockout on Tapu Lele and gets the attack boost. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing first turn for Dunga.
That was amazing. The only thing you could really complain about is that paralysis, but in that turn, unless it was a speed tie, we found that Nate's definitely is faster as its Shadow Ball hit the Drifblim, and now it's definitely faster with that paralysis, so that means a Shadow Ball can definitely knock out that Drifblim.
Well, it does have the Unburden and the Tailwind boost now. Drifblim gonna go ahead and switch out for Tapu Lele, negate the electric terrain. Will-O-Wisp misses, Zen Headbutt Oko's the Drifblim, and Thunder comes out into the Lele, dealing around 40%.
Yeah, that Will-O-Wisp missing might have just cost Nate the game already, honestly. I mean, that Metagross can basically, I believe we saw last game, one-shot that Tapu Koko with a Meteor Mash.
Yeah. And of course, now that the Tapu Koko is not in its electric terrain, Nate's Metagross can't go for priority bullet punches onto the Tapu Lele. And that means that, and with Dunga's Metagross faster thanks to the Tailwind, it's just going to be that much harder. Earthquake comes out, barely misses the KO onto Tapu Koko. Nature's Madness comes out onto Metagross, and Meteor Mash goes into the protecting Lele. I think that this is game for Nate.
Yeah, that Metagross actually outspeeds that Tapu Koko, which is interesting. So yeah, it'll just basically be able to get a Earthquake off right now and basically end the game.
Drifblim switches in as Earthquake picks up the KO onto Tapu Koko and Metagross, and boy, was that a fast and commanding game in Dunga's favor.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Nate did get a little bit unlucky right there with that Will-O-Wisp missing. We know it doesn't have perfect accuracy, but he really should have been able to count on that, and that really would have kind of made that Metagross a lot less threatening with that burn.
Yep, so now I believe Dunga will be facing Ole, since both of them have one in their brackets, and Nate will face Kyle to see who is eliminated from the tournament.
Yeah, so I guess we will see you guys next time with our next match.